Surrealism was an art movement based on dreams, unconscious thought, and defying conventional logic. It grew out of the earlier avant-garde movement called Dada in the 1920s. Dada was about chaos and rejecting logic and rationality, and was also referred to as anti-art. Just like Surrealism, it often featured bizarre imagery that didn't make sense. Famous Surrealist artists include Salvador Dalí, René Magritte, Marcel Duchamp, Man Ray, Max Ernst, and Frida Kahlo. Painting and sculpture are what gave Surrealism its fame, but it was also important in literature, music, and of course film. Some of the most well-known Surrealist artists even directed some movies. The first film I'll mention is Rhythmus 21. It was directed by a German artist named Hans Richter, who was influenced by Cubism and was part of the Dada movement. Rhythmus 21 was completely abstract, 3 minutes long, and black and white. There are no actors or dialogue, just shapes growing in size and moving about the screen. These basic geometric shapes also show an inspiration from the Dutch De Stijl art movement of the era. The short is one of the earliest and most influential abstract films. Next, there's the 1923 short Return to Reason by the prominent Dada/Surrealist artist Man Ray. Born in 1890 in Pennsylvania, Man Ray became known for his photography and painting in the 1910s and 20s. He ended up being part of the first Surrealist exhibition held in Paris in 1925. Return to Reason is an under 3-minute short film that featured Man Ray's signature rayographs, which were made without a camera by placing objects directly on photographic paper before exposing it to light. Like Rhythmus 21, it's an abstract film with no dialogue. The only actor is Kiki of Montparnasse, who is just seen as a faceless nude torso. Kiki, whose real name was Alice Prynne, was a model artist and actress who was also Man Ray's lover. Return to Reason starts with entirely abstract images that look like they may have inspired the work of experimental filmmaker Stan Brakhage. There are some rayographs of nails and other objects, and we are shown a series of seemingly random things that appear to have no connection to one another. There is presumably no rational meaning to be gathered, and this fits right in with the Surrealist way of thinking. It defies the typical expectation that a film should tell a logical story. Man Ray continued to make shorts, including one from 1926 called Emak-bakia. It was produced in France and included some of Pablo Picasso's sculptures. Reportedly, the experimental film caused a fight to break out in the audience of one of the showings when someone complained that it was giving him a headache. As in his earlier work Return to Reason, there are fast-paced abstract images, but there are also more intelligible shots of someone driving a car, a woman brushing her hair in a mirror, and dancing legs. Emak-bakia also used techniques like double exposure and stop motion. Additionally, Man Ray produced yet another Surrealist short film in 1928 titled The Sea Star. It was shot mostly either through glass or off a mirror, resulting in scenes that are very blurry and hard to make out. This was a typical Surrealist tactic of ignoring the audience's expectations as well as traditional cinematic conventions. In 1924, French director René Clair released Entr'acte. It has appearances by Surrealist figures such as Duchamp, Man Ray, and French painter Francis Picabia. Also appearing was Erik Satie, the famous French composer of the Gymnopédie, who wrote the score for the short film. Satie had written for a Dada publication and knew many Surrealist artists. The film uses all sorts of tricks, like multiple exposures, stop motion, slow motion, and playing footage in reverse. Entr'acte is much longer than many of these as it clocks in at 22 minutes. Clair would go on to be one of France's most significant directors, making more traditional films like And Then There Were None and Under the Roofs of Paris. In 1924, Ballet Mécanique, directed by Fernand Léger and Dudley Murphy, came out. Léger was a French cubist painter and sculptor, and this was the only film he directed. Man Ray helped with the cinematography. The short runs for under 20 minutes, and has a score by American avant-garde composer George Antheil, who later composed for the dialogue-free 1955 film Dementia. The music stood on its own and ended up being 10 minutes longer than the film. It was not combined with the movie until the 1990s, but was performed as a separate concert piece as early as 1926. Ballet Mécanique starred Kiki of Montparnasse and contains surreal random imagery, like disembodied spinning legs, kaleidoscopic shots of machines, and simple geometric shapes. 2 years later, in 1926, Marcel Duchamp made his first and only film titled Anemic Cinema. Duchamp was among the most significant artists of any time period, and especially of the 20th century. He was a part of Cubism and Dada, and was one of the earliest to create what we now think of as conceptual art, initially in 1917 with his ready-made sculpture of a urinal tiled fountain. Anemic cinema is a visually striking black and white film made up of hypnotic swirling circles and spirals. This is all that happens over the course of 6 minutes. Like others in this video, there are no actors or dialogue. An overlooked surrealist filmmaker is Germaine Dulac, who directed Seashell and the Clergyman in 1928. Born in France, she was a film theorist and critic and was also involved with feminism and socialism. Decades later, the BFI included Seashell and the Clergyman on their list of 10 great feminist films. The script was written by Antonin Artaud, a French avant-garde playwright and theater director who reportedly influenced writers such as Allen Ginsberg and Samuel Beckett. Undeniably, the most discussed entry on this list is Un Chien Andalou of 1929. It was written by two people. One was Spanish filmmaker Luis Buñuel, who went on to become one of the most acclaimed directors in history, making art house classics such as The Exterminating Angel, The Discreet Charm of the Bourgeoisie, and That Obscure Object of Desire. The other writer was the previously mentioned Salvador Dalí, the painter who, for many, is synonymous with surrealism. Un Chien Andalou is infamous for the shot of an eyeball being sliced in close-up. It's supposed to be a female human's eye, but it was actually a horse, though this doesn't make it much less of a disturbing image. After this, there's an intertitle stating 8 years later, but no time seems to have actually passed, and the situation and characters remain the same. A parade of surreal imagery follows, including ants magically coming out of a man's hand, and him suddenly and inexplicably dragging two pianos and donkey corpses behind him. Trying to find any meaning in the film is most likely pointless, as Buñuel specifically said that nothing in the film symbolizes anything, and no idea or image that might lend itself to a rational explanation of any kind would be accepted. In fact, the lack of meaning is sort of the point, and indeed crucial to Dada and Surrealism in general. Surrealism was profoundly important in filmmaking throughout the rest of the 20th century, and still is today. Its impact can be seen in the works of great directors such as David Lynch, Federico Fellini, Jan Svankmajer, and Alejandro Jodorowsky. That'll be it for this video. Thanks for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe.